The fall of ancient Babylon, the impregnable city. October 539 BC. The ancient world holds its breath. Standing on the banks of the Euphrates River is the greatest metropolis Earth had ever seen, Babylon. To the ancient mind, Babylon wasn't just a city. It was an immovable object, an impregnable fortress. Herodotus claimed its walls were 300 feet high and so thick that a four-horse chariot could turn around on top of them. It was a city of unimaginable splendor, rebuilt to its zenith by the legendary king Nebuchadnezzar II. It was the center of commerce, culture, and the terrifying power of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Looking at these walls, no general in their right mind would dream of attacking them. To take Babylon by force was considered impossible. But by 539 BC, the great Nebuchadnezzar was dead. And while the walls remained strong, the foundation of the empire was beginning to crack. The internal rot. The man sitting on the throne, or rather, the man who should have been sitting on it, was Nabonidus. He wasn't a warrior like Nebuchadnezzar. He was an eccentric scholar, often called history's first archaeologist. But as a politician, he was a disaster. Babylon belonged to Marduk, the king of the gods. The powerful priesthood of Marduk controlled the city's heart. But Nabonidus? He was obsessed with the moon god, Sin. He diverted funds, built new temples for the moon, and, worst of all, he insulted the priests of Marduk by ignoring their rituals. And then, he did the unthinkable. Nabonidus packed his bags and left. He exiled himself to the desert oasis of Tama for 10 years. Imagine the President of the United States moving to a remote island and refusing to come back, leaving the country on autopilot. He left his son, Belshazzar, to run the city as regent. But without the true king, the vital New Year's festival, the Akitu, could not be performed. For the Babylonians, this was a spiritual death sentence. The city was rich, yes, but the people were demoralized, the priests were furious, and the gates of the city were guarding a population that secretly wanted change. Babylon was a powder keg waiting for a spark, and in the mountains to the east, that spark had just turned into a raging fire, the rising storm. While King Nabonidus was obsessing over relics in the desert, and his son was navigating court politics in Babylon, a true force of nature was consolidating power just to the east. This was Cyrus the Great, the king of Anshan and the founder of the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Cyrus was everything Nabonidus wasn't: a brilliant tactician, a respected warrior, and, crucially, a master of public relations. His army was disciplined, relentless, and they were marching west. The entire known world could feel the shift in power. Babylon couldn't hide behind its walls forever. In the summer of 539 BC, the last major Babylonian army, what little of it Nabonidus had cared to maintain, met Cyrus's forces at the Battle of Opis near the Tigris River. The result was a rout. The battle was brief, bloody, and decisive. With the field army gone, the immense city of Babylon became the final piece on the chessboard. Cyrus didn't need to conquer the empire. He only needed to conquer this one city. And he rode up to the supposedly impregnable walls knowing he couldn't use brute force. But Cyrus was patient. He knew that the only way to defeat the unconquerable city wasn't through its defenses, but through its lifeline, the heist. Cyrus faced a paradox. He had an army that could defeat any foe in the field, but he was blocked by walls that no siege engine could break. He knew that assaulting the city was suicide, and starving it out would take decades. He needed to find the city's one fatal flaw. The flaw wasn't in the walls themselves. It was in the water that gave the city life. The Euphrates River flowed right through the heart of Babylon, entering and exiting under massive bronze gates designed to keep invaders out. If you could breach those river gates, the city was yours. But how do you breach a gate that is underwater? Cyrus's solution was an engineering marvel. Instead of attacking the river gate, he attacked the river itself. His troops began digging massive trenches upstream of Babylon, diverting the Euphrates into a huge, specially constructed artificial lake or reservoir. as the Babylonians inside the city feasted and drank. Utterly confident in their defenses, the river flowing through their city began to drop. The level receded so drastically that, according to the historians, the water was reduced to roughly thigh height. The river, Babylon's greatest protector, had become a muddy highway. All that stood between Cyrus and the heart of the empire were the great bronze river gates. The night of the fall, 539 BC, the night of the Persian invasion was not marked by a desperate battle, but by a city-wide party. It was the night of a major Babylonian festival. Belshazzar, the regent, and the Babylonian elite felt utterly secure. The walls were standing, the gates were locked, and the Euphrates was flowing, or so they thought. The historical accounts, like those from Xenophon, paint a picture of almost unbelievable negligence. With the water level drastically lowered, the Persian elite forces, possibly led by a general named Gobryas, waded down the muddy riverbed. They reached the massive river gates, which should have been sealed and guarded, but they found them carelessly open. Some believe Babylonian priests, angry at Nabonidus, opened the gates themselves. Others say the soldiers responsible for locking them simply never noticed the unprecedented drop in water level. Either way, the great defensive system was completely bypassed. The Persian soldiers, dripping with mud, silently emerged into the lower city. The conquest was swift and shocking. The inner defense forces, scattered and unprepared, offered little resistance. Belshazzar, according to the biblical book of Daniel, was in the middle of a massive feast when the news arrived. This is the origin of the terrifying prophecy, the writing on the wall. It wasn't a siege, it was a raid. By the time the Babylonians woke up to the sound of fighting, their capital had already fallen. The greatest city in the world, the heart of an empire, was conquered in a single, silent night, not by breaching its walls, but by stealing its river. The aftermath and legacy. The fall of Babylon was unlike almost any other conquest in the ancient world. Cyrus the Great did not pillage, burn, or enslave the populace. He understood that a willing subject makes a better citizen than a fearful slave. His goal was legitimacy, not destruction. Cyrus immediately commissioned this artifact, the Cyrus Cylinder. It was a masterstroke of political propaganda. In it, he claims that the chief Babylonian god, Marduk, was so disgusted by the impious king Nabonidus that Marduk himself chose Cyrus to enter the city peacefully and restore order. Cyrus presented himself not as a conqueror, but as a liberator. Cyrus went further, instituting a revolutionary policy of tolerance. He restored temples and, crucially, allowed displaced peoples to return to their homelands, taking their sacred images with them. This is why Cyrus is revered in the Hebrew Bible. He issued the edict that allowed the Jewish exiles to return to Jerusalem after decades of captivity in Babylon. But while the city was spared, its destiny was irrevocably changed. The fall of Babylon marked the end of native Mesopotamian rule forever. The greatest city in the world became merely the most important province in a much larger Persian empire. Over the following centuries, Babylon declined. Alexander the Great briefly intended to make it his capital, but after his death, new cities nearby diverted the population. The Great Walls eventually became quarries for later builders. The once mighty city, the supposed seat of immortality, faded into legend. The fall of ancient Babylon serves as history's ultimate reminder. No matter how grand the walls, an empire always falls from the internal corruption it chooses to ignore.